These are the latest victims of Chicago's mob war. The Chicago Crime Commission has logged over 1,000 gangland killings since it started counting in 1919. For generations, mobsters have been murdering each other on the streets of Chicago, most of them killed by persons unknown. And it still goes on. The criminal organization that kills in Chicago today gunned its way to power during Prohibition. In 1920, Prohibition became law, forcing legitimate brewers and distillers to shut down. The sale of alcoholic drink was now illegal, but America's thirst was as great as ever. And criminals were only too ready to quench it. Bootleggers rushed to supply this new illegal market. They muscled in on a business worth $2 billion a year. Organized crime's road to riches was paved with the good intentions of the temperance movement. Among the young gangsters who cut their criminal teeth in Prohibition were the men who would rule America's organized crime for the next 50 years. They filled every kind of bottle with any concoction. Home-brewed wines and rot-gut spirits were passed off as French champagne, London gin, or Jamaican rum. The profits were colossal. All over America, stills bubbled away to keep the nation drinking. Some of them were raided by a new force of 2,000 Prohibition agents set up to scour the country for bootleggers. The agents carried out spectacular raids, especially when the newsreel cameras were turning. They would even destroy moonshiners' vehicles, but enforcing the despised law was beyond them. For every bootlegger whose business went up in flames, another was always ready to start brewing. Most city bootleggers came from countries where drinking was a virtue, not a vice. Prohibition won no support in America's Little Italies.
You know, there were bootleggers on almost every block, it seemed. They made it in their own homes, in their garages, and even had underground conduits that went under the street from one barn, as we called them back in those days, rather than garages, to another barn across the street. And the barn across the street is where they had the trucks and wagons that came to pick up the 5-gallon cans of whiskey. And it was a common sight for everybody, you know, and as a youngster you would see these things. You would see the operation on a regular basis, and occasionally there would be a police raid where they would go into these barns and throw the cans of moonshine out into the alley and break them open and let it spill on the ground. Everybody would come running around with cups and pans and pick some up and run back home with it.
Prohibition's great vice was that it taught America disrespect for the law. I feel, without exaggeration, that much of the crime in America stems from the Prohibition era, that it taught many people disrespect, and it taught many people that the pursuit of crime created careers, very profitable careers.